like open. Open. So it's like open feeling. Like open feeling. Like open. Open. So it's a snapping feeling. It's this associated with this. That feeling. Okay? So here, kick. Here, kick. So it's similar to like it goes here. And I wanted to do a tricky mawashi-geri. Instead of telegraphing it, I'm going to let it run right up this body line. And then come around this neck. Run it right up the body. You can't see it, it's coming from behind. The majority of the time, you can't see it. See what I'm talking about? Very, very tricky switch. Very tricky deliveries of kicks. Come here. You're going to basically take this and drop it in your kick like that feeling. This, a little bit of succinct action. And then as you do that, then slowly you deliver. The kick becomes a function of the drop of your kick. So I make that snap, makes the kick. I make that snap, makes the kick. But it's the snap, it's not the kick. Would be, so you want to also, when you kick, be a little bit on top of your center. So that I can, what you don't want to do is to lean back, and then the ability to come back. So some maybe Korean stylists are going to kick and kind of make this line, this sort of line in your kick, you know, like that line. But Japanese stylists don't usually do that. Japanese stylists kind of revolve around your center point. So if I lean back a lot, a little bit of difficulty coming back. I want to kind of be in that space. So when I deliver my kick, I'm still kind of in this space. See what I'm saying? I'm not far away. So when I say I kick, I should be able to make an easy recovery back to this spot. Kick, back to this spot. So I can, whatever, right back into that space. Not having to recover. Then people are really concerned with recovering, and then they don't commit the hip. And they kind of just stay with sort of a uncommitted hip angle, which is not bad. I mean, they're all different versions of mawashi-geri. I mean, I remember doing mawashi-geri when you learned to don't turn this foot at all. Just that mawashi-geri. It's almost like a around the corner front kick. We used to call it short mawashi. That feeling, like that. So there is that version, but if you want to train connection to your center, see if you can get a total hip commitment and a total hip return. Like really rotate your body in, and then rotate back. You'll find that the rotate back is the hard part. You'll get this part. But you see so many people do the kick, then they don't ever come back. Rotating around your center and letting that sort of be a thing that you're always on top of and in control of. So that's why this exercise is kind of good like that, because although my feet are moving underneath, my center is I'm really controlling my center line like that. Like I'm not going way over here and then way over there. I'm just barely shifting it, but my feet are making an accommodating step. You see that? And then I make my kick, this first kick, and then after I make the first kick, I let my body rotate around my center. So it's like I'm really controlling my center line. I'm not way over here leaning back, compensating to move back. I'm trying to stay pretty tight on the center line. Recover right away. I'm still back in the game that way. Always keep this point. Okay? Good. And different sensei, if you look at their technique, if you really know what you're looking at, you can watch, like, say, a Sai sensei. You watch old films of a Sai sensei, and he had very much that whip-like movement. So he was hitting very much, in my observation, like a guy who knew baseball. When he stepped and he hit, he created this whip in his body that allowed, I mean, it's just like a baseball player going on. You follow? So it creates that acceleration. Then take that idea and then say, okay, but then there was like Nishiyama Sensei, who didn't move like that at all. His body, when he moved, he was fully integrated. So I would say it was as if you imagine you have like a little arrow coming off your obi, when I punch, like this is, my technique just starts to manifest here. Here there's really no energy in my punch yet. But right about here, it's almost taking on the look of Urazu. So what I've done is I've sort of aligned the knot of my belt with my fist. And then, if I want to keep the thing all as a unit moving together, fully integrated, then I'm going to keep my arrow pointing to my punch all the way through to the end. So even at the very end of my punch, there's still some of my hip digging behind it. You see what I'm saying? So I haven't played out the motion of my hip and then made my arm action as I did the other one. So the whipping one, this goes first, and that goes second. And the other one, they stay right together. So there's always a little bit of the front of my hip pushing the back of my elbow, even at the apex of the technique. Makiwara will teach you that. Get your fist on Makiwara, press. Press. Boom. You see it? And what you do when you do that right, this never gets sore. This gets sore because you're pressing through your center. You're using your center to deliver it. Do you follow the idea? Now I would say those are just two ways of moving, and there's probably a pretty good argument for both. Hitting like a baseball using this whip is really good when you know exactly where the target is, because then you can calculate how does my whip crack on that spot. Just like, how does my baseball bat meet the baseball? You follow what I'm saying? So in that one, if I know pretty much exactly where I want to hit, then that whip creates a lot of that sort of that hits at that spot. But if everything is moving, if I'm going to hit with, if by all accounts now the target is here, now I need to have my center still behind my technique at that spot. You follow what I'm saying? So that anywhere in this arc of my punch, my center is supporting the movement of my punch. And I would say when I'm doing it right, it's my glutes and all of this that I'm really feeling digging into the front of my hip, digging into the back of my elbow. This is all super low. All my boundaries are short up. I don't want part of my energy going that way, part of my energy going that way. By virtue of my shape, even if I'm in here and I'm taking that shape, I'm creating these sort of boundaries. And then I'm letting my center support the technique all the way through. Yeah. Or boom, boom, and then I'm hitting that and knocking the center out of the way. The feeling is like I'm connecting to my center. So it's not an athletic thing with your arms. It's a feeling of kind of solidarity with your shape. And then when I make the second inflection, the same thing. It's like it's coming from here. So it's like I make these connections. Just slow down, super slow. So if I drape, I'm feeling I'm going through him. I drop my heaviness. Just connect, like a little contraction towards my center and get heavy. And then I'm pushing with my frame. So that's a lot different than trying to athletically manipulate a partner. Just like your karate doesn't want to be like a shoulder athletic effort. It's a more through the ground feeling. Whatever you're doing is like connect. Connect. So this is exactly the same feeling. So I come in with this, just feel that connection. You follow what I'm saying? So it's like it kind of gets distilled down to just what's happening, the connection of our centers, as opposed to all this peripheral stuff like your upper body. It's just finding connection with your partner. Just connect. Connect. So give it a try one more time. That feeling. Thing kind of like a punch. And then again, if there's any resistance in the movement, like you feel like you're not catching the center, then just default. And try to keep a good connection to your, okay? So, going in. Even if I'm looking here, I'm not looking on the surface. I'm looking, the feeling is like through him. The biggest thing you got to get away from is this sort of reactive action. Instead, you just want to kind of connect. Just connect and put your center forward. So just going in, any resistance, and then keeping your broad sense of your perception. Okay. Good job with that. And like you're dodging at the same time. So instead of being like 1, 2, you use a little bit of that plyometric to the floor. That feeling. So just bend a little bit, move the force in, make the connection. So when you do it, just feel like you're using the earth. So there's like, when you're younger, when I was younger, we tend to rely on our strengths, like our athleticism. And so my karate was pretty athletic, I guess, when I was in my 30s, but now at 64, I think you can still have dynamism, but you want a level of efficiency where you're not muscling everything. You just find the right time to the time is totally different. Just unifying your feeling of your body, as opposed to feeling like you're grabbing and throwing your partner. If you can marriage those two things, like I would say, you still want a well-performing body in all the things that we think of as, speed, flexibility, balance, but then marry that with correct technique. That's why the art of karate practice is you're not at the apex when you're, 25, 29, somewhere in there, where most people, because the technique takes a long time to develop. So it's sort of the marriage, you're still physical, but you have a few decades of practice behind you. Does that make sense? Right? So, yeah, just I would rely on those core principles and feel how they're in everything. Like when I'm using the earth to push off in that sort of stepping motion, that's no different than I'm using the earth when I'm punching. So when you punch, it's not just your arm, it's not just the turning of your hip, but I'm pushing off the earth. So part of why this hip is going forward is I'm pushing. Part of why I'm going in is because I'm pushing. But my carriage is relaxed. Okay? Try that one. You're not edge of my body. This is like a frame right here. So you want to be careful that you don't maybe do this. You don't come in and have your arm back here. And then now you've kind of lost the momentum of your step, and then you're trying to apply your arm sort of out of sync. It's basically a boundary that I can't quite negotiate. That's the idea. It's like he's coming at me and I'm just inserting a wedge in that space. I'm feeling like that. So it's just like, which I say is not much different. But this is, think of a lot of your karate as establishing boundaries. Like if I'm making Zen Butsudachi, this side is making a boundary. And then when I punch, I'm squeezing this boundary against that boundary. If this wasn't established, then part of my energy is diffused, goes across the room. So a lot of times, just by virtue of our shape, we're able to kind of drive energy in a particular direction. So I don't want to step and have my spigot this open. I want that to be nice and tight, right? So that when he comes in, basically, into that spigot. Are you following that? Oh, you're creating shapes by internally how you're connecting. That's why I would say Zen Butsudachi this is a really unique feeling. It's like, boom. It's not just my knee over my toe, it's a boom. That's my butt. The side of my leg is holding this boundary strong. And this side squeezes against that side. Whatever I'm doing, it's like this is some fluid substance and I'm squeezing into the front, including my shoulders are making that happen, including my fist is making that happen, all kind of running off the conduit of my breath. Okay, I try it one more time. Other way. So either he's making an advance on me and I'm putting my hand up, or I'm making an advance on him and he put his hand up. But in either case, doesn't matter, we find ourselves here. So when you do that, you want to do it with this, not shoulder feeling, but like, this very relaxed connection, like that. So try this. Have a little connection here, and then, so you feel this little bit of biofeedback. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of release that and kind of go in a little bit and try to create that shape in my partner. So it's connect, and I feel that energy, and basically I'm just going to release that energy. And as I release the energy, that's kind of affecting my body actually dropping in at the same time. So I'm accomplishing both those things. Later can happen without even connecting, because there'll be an anticipated point of contact. So and then I'm going to try. So I kind of create that shape and I'm going to immediately. And then I just come in and rest. So super slow. So connect, release, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in, step in. And this could be a strike, could be a defense, but the feeling is like the same kind of hip vibration, but in a more subtle way. So connect, cut in. You come in, so basically this is like I'm up against this obstacle, so I just release that and let everything keep my coming in. So there's two things. There's my upper body doing this. So my upper body is advancing in the unit, so this can be a strike, so this could be basically that, feeling like that. But there's also my lower body that is doing this. So this and this are so a lot of times we don't really think about what our legs do. We think about what our hands are doing, and our legs are just kind of down there making space. But there's so many movements, there's so many things that you can do where you're kind of finding connection with your partner, or just connection. So your legs can have the same sensitivity as your arms do in how you kind of connect. So I would say in this movement, think that they're equal. Like as I come in with my center and my upper body, I'm also coming in with my lower body. Boom. Boom. And then I'm hitting that and knocking the center out of the way. Okay? Both things. That's it. Things. There's probably many different ways you can look at your karate, but I would say one definite way is it the type of body awareness that would probably be very significant. When you're first practicing, your concern is, can you get one hand to turn over, the other hand to turn up? So this is an investigation in body awareness. Can I have bilateral coordination when my hands are doing different things? So neurologically, you're kind of attuned to your body. I would say that all these type of movements want to sort of get you, like whether you're just practicing the minutiae of taking a step and feeling that sort of like subtlety in that, or if you're pushing off the floor into a punch, that's a component of that as well, technically. So, and that would I would say that would never stop. Like for 50 years, I'm still feeling more things in my technique that I didn't feel 2 years ago. So that's a type of depth in your investigation, is just as a type of body awareness. But body awareness is not just like your physical body, it's also sort of your psychological state. So for instance, when you get really kind of myopic and like you're trying to solve a problem and the guy's coming in and you have that angst, you tend to be very here, sort of cerebrally, and you tend to want to do things with your hands because you're kind of uptight and it's all occurring in this sort of processing zone. Do you follow that idea? So in order to actually like feel your body, you have to get out of that. You have to get into that state where you're just kind of feeling the connection of the occurrence as opposed to the data that I'm trying to process. And that was sort of why I was saying when the guy comes in, like when he comes in, you can't really, you don't want to approach this motion with this feeling like that, like I'm reacting to it. You have to go, you just basically go in. The feeling is like that. And when I just go in, and my perception is here, I'm taking in everything, including my whole body. Like I feel now, my feet, I feel this ability to have a connection down here. Because I'm not up here processing in this zone, but I'm down and I'm taking in everything globally, including my composition. So that when I'm moving, I have the sense of connection. So my lower body is available. Like I want my mind to be down with my feet as well as up here. So I have to put it over everything. And that's a perceptual thing. That's why I would say shoulder down, eye up, kind of look at an infinite point, and feel that sense of connection. That's kind of like your operating system. If you can do that, then you'll feel your body. Then you'll feel the minutiae of the movement of your body intuitively, as opposed to like intellectually. Okay? All right, let's find out. So when you're pushing on your partner, what you want to be asking yourself as the guy pushing, it's not a contest. It's just a training modality for you to sort of explore, using your partner as a source of biofeedback. So when I push on his body, I'm looking for anything on my behalf that's giving. Like if my shoulder is recoiling a little bit, or my hips are wiggling a little bit, I don't want anything to come back at me. I want everything to go into him. And so part of that is, technique should always be hara supported. It should be connected as an inflection of your center. So this inflection we're talking about in your hand, that is happening precisely at the same moment as this inflection in my center. And my breath is sort of the conduit. That feeling. That, if you watch a guy like Rupal Sensei, that's sort of how he's, there's a difference, right? But that's it. It's that feeling of relaxation and connection, where everything is behind everything else, supporting it like a wave. And if you think about just the mechanics of a punch, so I would say that would be slightly more sophisticated because it's a little amorphic. It's a kind of relaxed, just a but we don't learn that way. We learn sort of this very stereotypical kind of shape to get the right feeling. So when you do that, well, the important junctions, well, yeah, you want to make a good squeezing of peanut butter because you're trying to connect your fist to your forearm. So karate people usually have fairly well-developed forearm muscle. Because if you don't make that grip, although you can do it without, like if your alignment is really true, you can create that line going right back into your arm. But if you're just a little bit off, energy will exit. That for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Like the thing hitting back at me, it's going to go into my body and exit out my wrist. So that's a critical junction. So that's why squeezing peanut butter is the glue that holds your fist to your forearm. Second important place is when the energy comes back, you don't want the energy to go out that way. So pulling your shoulder down to your torso. So I stand around my house. I mean, I look like I have a neurological condition. And I'm always doing that. Because I want to get that to now go into my core. And then when it gets to my center, I want to kind of, like if I'm, say, making a gyakuzuki or something, when I make the hit, I want to kind of connect, so that it doesn't wiggle and exit out in these little vectors on the horizontal plane. I want to kind of glue my torso to my stance so that energy now goes into my legs. And then I want the flatness of my feet because ultimately my purchase is the earth. So those would be the critical junctions in the Gyakuzuki 101. Flatness of feet, connection to your center, low grip, all happening as a function of my breath. But once you feel that ability to hit an inflection point, then you put it in anything. So we're going to go back to trying that again with your partner. Deflect, Haiwan Nagashiyuki, drive in Kizenmazuki. Okay?
So
yeah.
At the last moment?
Yeah, it's like everything is hitting a focal point. So you have I think if you're like a oscilloscope or something, you have like a baseline of total relaxation, then a spike of activity back to total relaxation. So this is the objective, is to be supernatural, and I use that word because it takes a lot to be that natural.
Right.
But you have to be supernatural, and then you just.
They were so.
Now, this makes it on YouTube. Now he's totally a woo-woo guy. But you want to be like super relaxed. Let's put it that way, and then you want to hit an inflection point, and then relax again. So relax, relax again. Not caught in the echo of your movement. How many times do you see people, I think I got all this echo of their movement. There's downward block, there's sotoke, there's shutoke, Kizenmazuki. But I'm always right back to that relaxed frame, catching the moment. Okay, we'll try again. Okay? So then you're there, right? You're there, and then how do I? These are like gears meshing together. So axial elongation. Hara supported technique, breath. Try that next one. Now this leg, this hip. Now put those together. Stretch. So don't get always hugging the mat or hugging the deck. Like come up and then it's like this is, and not losing that tension as I kick. Stay low, shoulder nice and low. So don't make it a step and an arm movement. But this whole assembly of my body is motivated by my back leg. So I get my leg into my hip, into the back of my elbow. And then don't let your hips sag. So some people might have this characteristic. Think of your stance as always forming a plateau that your torso sits upon. So I'm going to be very cognizant and kinesthetically aware of that plateau. So I'm going to keep it level like that. So don't go like that. Like that. And then shoulder down. And then my knee is going to kind of peek up through that space. But I'm not going to bump my head on this imaginary ceiling. And it's not going to stop. Boom. So don't go 1, 2. Make just a slight curve. So my hand. And as strong as you're kicking, fumikomi, the hands come back with the same intensity. So this motion is as strong as that motion. Let this leg reel you up. And it's going to pull this and it's going to pull the back of my elbow. So I'm not stepping. I'm kind of reeling myself up. And then as I push up, I'm pushing down simultaneously. So as say Sean puts his arms up, put your arms up. He wants to feel this pressure go down his back and into the floor. So I'm not pushing really up, I'm pushing through. So I'm engaging this resonating guitar string along my back. So try, say you're here. You're here like that. I'm going to pull. So get that feeling of like pull. But you cannot shortcut these feelings. Like when you see somebody that pulls with that sense of connection to their center, connects to the ground as they make this morote aguke or whatever, that feeling of connection, or the stretch of the rubber band, or when they synchronize their hip, those are hard-earned skills. But you got to know what you're looking at. You have to have felt it a little bit in yourself. Okay. These guys, I think, are very hard. So you're here. We're going to do this Shibo Kakioke, followed by a Yamazuki. And sometimes people just raise their knee, and maybe it's your style, but I think this is a shin block. Like a little spiral is a shin block, and I drive into Zentutsu. This one's front kicking, shin block, driving like if Sean's kicking, front kick, I'm shin blocking. Coming in with my technique. You all right? A little bit. So I'm going to sink, little spiral, step, drive my center into my Yamazuki. And this punch comes in, doesn't come like that. It comes in like that. Yeah, try that easy. The bottom hand is very much like that, like a boxer punch. So that's coming in. So this is this, and that. And this one here can be considered almost like block and hit simultaneously. Block and hit. So my sensei said there should be a transition between Agyoke and Jodansuki. So my Agyoke doesn't do this. My Agyoke is a straight line. If you bring it across, comes up, boom, boom, boom. Then if I want to be a little further out, boom. Now it's not Agyoke, but it's like strike to that feeling. A strike to the mastoid or whatever. Or it's block simultaneously, like block and punch. Block and punch. But they're all just different iterations of the same gesture. So that's that hand. And then this one doesn't want to come in like that, comes in like that. And hug the mat, stay low. When you shift your weight, shift your center. I think this is the hardest move in the kata right here. Pulling back and maintaining your center. And I'm going to ask you to do it and ask yourself, am I losing that connection? Or can I make that shift and feel that nice connection still in my core that leads me into the next movement? Does it ever dissipate, or is I always able to hold it? Now try it. And I want you to think like you're dragging your arm through molasses. So it's not my arm this way, it's my body pulling my arm. So I pull my arm. Pull. 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 So it's but it's not my arm, it's my body pulling. Yeah, try that. What you want to do is you want to sink your, like this is where my weight is sitting, really, here, like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze up to that line, but now I'm really low in the room. My butt's tight. Then I push. So it's like squeeze, push. Squeeze, push. That feeling. So don't skip into it. Same, you're here, and deliberately with control, maintain your center. Make that line as your eye turns. Shoulder shoulder down, eye up, and then these guys put together. And I squeeze again.